Hello and welcome to TFT Worlds Day 1, Game number 1. Enjoy.
That already is an accomplishment itself, but there's one more step to make in this one. We're kicking it off with Double 61, who started off with a glove and is finding a belt off of this one, Dan.
Yeah, let's get it started. Day one, round one. We're on Double 61 POV, a player who has made it to 3 championships, often touted as the player that North America respects the most from EMEA. And I think it's rightfully so. You look at his results, look at his stats, look at his consistency. Also, he's so mysterious, Mix. It feels like
Is he?
not many people really know much about him outside of France.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about him. He's super young, right? The last time he won the EMEA champion title, he was 18 or 19. So
Wow.
very, very young player, much younger when he won the world championship. And there was a little bit of EMEA history that we like to forget, where we were very excited about sending Casey Double to Worlds last set.
Yeah.
And we were expecting him to be our hero, our savior, to come back after a set's vanished, and he got day one.
Yeah, the performance on that particular championship wasn't so good, but he said he wasn't going to be practicing with Valorant
Exactly.
coming into this one, and so we're jumping over to Day6 point of view, there's something very big that I want to point out about this, okay? Day6 does not post a bunch in the social media stuff, but what Day6 had done is in July,
Yeah.
he said he'd be competing on a global stage. Now, I know a lot of players say that, but Day6 just doesn't really say that much in that regard.
He hasn't, but the few times he's shown up, he's done really well. We saw him early, for example, in Gizmos and Gadgets, and get that Innovator Extraordinaire Supreme. I'm not exactly sure what title he wants to go for, but here we go already.
My God!
Boy.
2-1 Prismatic Augment, which will shape the entire landscape. I see a lot of specific trait-based ones. I also see some generic powerful augments, but some of the most difficult ones to evaluate are econ-based. Do we take things like Golden Tick in the bottom left for Slooper? He chose not to. He took cybernetic implants. There's also some really powerful augments that might be redundant. If you look at things like Assassin Crown, for example, bottom right for Bintum Korea, does he take that? Is anybody else playing potential Dark Flight? Because people will look for that opportunities. And then you introduce with Dasik in top left with two really strong augments, Celestial Blessing 3 and Preparation 3. Those are some of the most powerful prismatics you can ask for.
I love this feeling, too, when you get all 8 perspectives of this.
Oh,
it
yes.
gives you that feeling of how much chaos is actually going on in these styles of lobbies. We do have 8 players here. There's a lot to go over in these spots, and so I'm glad we get to take these perspectives and kind of break them down one by one.
Absolutely. And we also, I was very excited for it for a second, but he picked so quickly you could barely see it. Shungo not going for the Cursed Crown, which is one of the augments that can give you so much strength, but at such a cost.
Yeah. I think Cursed Crown is really high risk, and I think we're at game one, so no
Yeah.
need to take something very risky to
Full
start things
steam
off with
ahead.
that. However, one thing really I want to call out is Dasik already slammed a blue buff while playing Preparation 3, meaning that he's not going to try to go for something default like a Seraphine Graves water gun composition. A lot of people would probably think about Protector's Vow, try to play off that tier, maybe start going for Z's components. Dasik is a very flexible player. Let's see what he's going to be playing later in this game.
Yeah, I do agree with that, too. It's like it's kind of unusual to see him have this like commitment feeling style of line when you slam that blue buff. Like you're saying, like, hey, I want somebody who's going to cast a ton as we come into this.
Yeah, you might look forward to Lagoon Soam, but that's a really unusual comp to play. A lot of people are
Astrals?
down on it. Speaking of a comp that I think is a little bit on the underrated side, we have Swift Shot Emblem Slam with the Rage Blade, which gives My Paradise 2 possible lines. We can obviously go with the traditional Swift Shot line of playing Zaya, Rage Wing, Guild units, have a really powerful late game comp that scales with a ton of stats. The other option would be to go for a reroll Yone composition. It heavily depends on whether or not My Paradise has that angle. You can see that Yone on the right side of the bench. Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, he's just waiting there, lurking in the shadows to come out and do some slicing. But for now, it has to be the Nidalee that carries this board, and that she will. My Paradise is trying to build out the board strength here. I'm always very excited when I see the Swift Shot Crown, just for the pure option of maybe going into 5 Swift Shots, which just makes me incredibly happy.
It's true, it's true. Ever since they buffed the late stages of Swift Shot, 4 and 5 Swift Shot are actually a huge jump. Speaking of huge jump, Nidalee 2 also brings stability. A lot of people are off the Astral hype train ever since the beginning of the set. Astrals have been repeatedly nerfed, and that actually scared so many people away. It's all about Shimmer, it's all about Lagoon. Those are the econ traits you play, but people forget if you have 2-star Astrals to get started off, it's just as effective.
It's powerful as well. Like you're getting that gold from it. Your units are still 2-star, so they're going to be naturally stronger than 1-star units. There's just no really other way to consider it right now. I'm looking at My Paradise 2 coming out of a 3rd place in the Legends Cup for Dragonlance, and usually they tend to tout themselves as the strongest Seraphine Graves player from Korea, and a lot of the peers also agree with this. So seeing this be just a completely different line as we open it up, where you're just not even anywhere close to being able to take that.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I talked to my Paradise and I was like, hey, you know, it's so great that we get to talk to some of the Korean players. How are you feeling? Do you think Korea can win? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. I think we can. And I was like, are you going to win? And he went, no, I went 8-8-8 in this Korean.
That usually is a good sign, actually. Not having a huge ego about your play and staying humble and observing. I think that's one of the biggest things, the mental going into the tournament as we take a look at the early carousel choices. So remember, Bintum did start off in a little bit unusual position. He ends up taking a spatula. We'll see if he's able to capitalize on that later on. Did he end up taking things like that assassin crown? I don't believe so. He took Earth's grab back too, so Bintum's going to be able to make a tactician's crown this early in the game, which is very powerful to be able to get that +1 team size, and he got 3 components.
I'm curious how huge of an incentive that is to actually take the loss streak angle when you open with an Earth's grab bag. If that first carousel has a spatula, it's a massive advantage, and we're seeing Day6's board right now, just a big change take place for that high econ.
Absolutely. So I was trying to figure out where he's running with this preparation. You both also had some ideas on where this blue buff could run, and he did have Astrals in place just for a very short time, has now found the Kaisa and is definitely going to go for a reroll angle, I would say, with the preparation. It just, all the signs are signing.
Yeah, this just feels like such a strong angle for that too. You're going to have Kaisa sitting on the bench. He's already prepped this up. This is one of the major advantages that Kaisa reroll has naturally, is you're going to have more stats in play, and now that's even being compounded.
It's a good point. Kaisa reroll is the most dominant 2-cost reroll that we usually see perform. However, it's not a composition that's easy to pull off if more than one person plays it.
Yeah.
And so Day6 putting a line in the sand saying, like, I want to be able to play things like the Kaisa reroll, is it going to pay off for him? And then the other part of the equation is, will he be able to even hit it, right? There's obviously a really big boost because you're getting Lagoon, you're getting Shimmer, so a lot of econ compared to other reroll traits like the Yone. Hits a Volibear in the shop, which is huge for the 3 Shimmer, and we can start racking up that gold. But Dasik also lost 4 times. So now he has to weigh, how do I best lose the next round by the fewest units possible and make sure I don't snap my losing streak?
Yeah, and on top of that, too, it's just trying to manage your economy here. It's a balance of the gold and the health, because a lot of this particular patch has been dedicated to the idea of health preservation. You don't want to lose too much.
It's so cute. Daisy has the girlfriend buff, of course, enabled in the background here. She's looking and rooting for him, and I think that's just going to give him the angle here to really make that loss happen. We're going to see how this one works out. He is paired up against Casey Double, and Casey Double also has a Volibear on his board that has 3 items, Zeke's as well, and I think that's definitely going to be a loss for Daisy, although not the most preferable one, losing a lot of HP here.
Yeah, that's like maximum HP unless you're taking the Bebe line and going to 6 every single time.
Bintum also at 64, so Day6, surprising despite getting 5-0, is not the lowest HP person in this lobby, and that's the dynamic with 2 basically open forward players. They had to play very weak boards. Unfortunately, both of them didn't match into each other and took maximum damage. On the opposite side, no one at 100, but My Paradise is the player streaking. We saw that he had that Astral board. Has a 2-star Yone as well. We have our commitment. My Paradise is in an excellent spot.
Yeah, and this is 2 things I want to highlight here, which is number 1, this is Dawnbringer. So it's not the best Mirage that's available for this, but it still can be quite strong. Your front line's a little bit more tanky, and inevitably, really what Yone wants is just more time. But the other thing to look at is how big the health divide is being created, and I think a lot of that has to do with that we're starting off with a prismatic augment, and so that really kind of disincentivizes the idea of a loss streak.
Yeah, unfortunately does not get another stack on the Olaf here. He would have very much liked that, but it's not going to happen in this PvE round. Damage just too high of what he's having here, but looking really good. We're
Sorry,
also
you can't get stronger. Your board's too strong.
Yeah, actually, that could be like a small thing that he could have improved, right? He didn't have to play a 2-star Skarner. He could have theoretically weakened his board to give himself an opportunity to get that passive Olaf stack. And it's just those really tiny things. We don't know if 4 attack damage changes the entire game for My Paradise. It probably doesn't, but it could. And that's what's so scary, because even if it costs him 1 placement, that's 1 fewer point you have for going to day 3.
And again, I want to really emphasize that point. It's very rare that these little things make a big difference. It's just that when they make a difference, the difference is big.
Absolutely. So
I couldn't
with
have said it
that,
better myself.
with that, I do kind of want to check in with Bintum and see what they are at because, as you said, Froden, 64 HP is not a lot to work with in 3-1, has been lost streaking even harder than Dasik, and I just want to check in and see what the board looks like. The last time we saw them, there was a Tactician's Crown that we talked about, so where is this board going?
Yeah, we already see where Fritz is going to. He wants to kill everyone through cringe. It's a Dark Flight, Shroud of Stillness on the entire board. No one can cast on time. The question is it another Prismatic Augment coming up at 3-2?
Oh,
Okay,
no.
okay, we're taking a step back. It's just a silver augment now. Everyone can breathe.
Yeah. Short break is going to be welcomed by the players. A little low impact. We are seeing Dasik once again taking his time with the augment choice here.
The one person I want to call out is Fritz in the bottom center. One, he's rolling, so he's trying to establish assassin board, but he's taken 2+ assassin augments. A very unusual variation of Darkflame we can see is making units like Graves and Assassin playing Neela alongside him, and all of a sudden you can get access to a vertical assassin trait that's really uncommon, and the best part about assassins is not many people are playing comps that are resistant against it. You look at things like Yone that wants to stay in the back line, guess what? Assassins are going to jump onto it.
Yeah.
You solo Deja or Kaisa as your backline carry, and everyone else walks to the front because they're melee. They're also going to get swarmed by assassins. So Fritz has a potential to potentially sweep this entire lobby by surprise and catch them off guard.
Yeah, we're just switching. I absolutely agree with you, but I'm seeing something that's explaining what's going on. KC Double has been on fire, has the 5 Shimmer scale unlocked. We saw the Volibear earlier. It's not even a Volibear 2, but just look at the sheer barrier he is picking up there.
Yeah, it's also needlessly big gem, which is a really powerful 3 Shimmer for the late game that gives you so much power based on the amount of gold, and you're able to get that much bonus damage. And also having Mogul's Mail giving tankiness on basically an itemless Itis. So at this point of the game, Double 61 is one of the primary players that I'm looking at to win this lobby alongside My Paradise if they're able to get that tempo rolling. But you have to look at other players of how they're going to try to come from behind. You saw Dasik, for example, did end up winning, stabilizing 2 rounds in a row, but players like Bintum has yet to win his first match.
Yeah, just now hitting a Jax 2 as well on this one. And I absolutely want to highlight the point of how much gold that KC Double is cranking in right now. Finding this Itis on stage 3 is a massive improvement. The Shimmer Scale items aren't the best, but they're good enough to get the job done. And you don't have to have the best board available in TFT. You just have to have a board that's better than everybody else.
Yeah, and better than everybody else is what Fritz is trying to do. Already spent that gold, as we caught earlier, is on 25 here, but it hasn't quite led to board strength just yet. He is on the 4 assassins. The Dark Flights are just not working out as much, but it might turn around here.
He whiffs on his roll down. He has a pair of Rengars and has to play a 1-star Aphelios, has what looks like 2 copies of Rel 2, so a very strong imbalance. His front line was a little bit too strong, and his back line's a little bit too weak, or rather his damage is.
Kitty cat.
Close.
Losing this fight is also a disaster. Rolling on 3-2, the purpose of doing that is to strengthen your board streak for the rest of the stage and have that tempo advantage going to stage 4. Fritz has none of that.
Yeah, naturally behind as we come into the carousel right now. There is comeback potential, but again, how much experience can you really have with vertical assassins?
I mean, speaking of experience, I think it's exactly the right keyword here. Fritz is one of the players that has very little TFT experience, basically came into the game last set and is now at Worlds. So for me, with Fritz, is not so much about, oh, we know this player does that, but about the acceleration that he will be able to do during these 10 games, because I think he has what it takes.
Well, we'll see. North America has gained a lot of respect for some of the players. Fritz is one of them. They're even talking about how Fritz, they think, is the strongest player from Latin, while some people say Tex Summers, who was also competing in a different lobby. Let's check in with Double 61. This man is rich. Look at him. 53 gold, level 7, has a couple years on the bench, can even hold things too. That just means that he's going to be incredibly strong and likely to go to a fast 9, be able to play for that dragon board. Can anybody take him down? It looks like he did lose 1 fight, and it's probably to a player like My Paradise who could chop through things like the Ice very quickly.
Yeah, My Paradise is at least still on fire, so we know he hasn't lost for now. But maybe Shungo can take something down here. He seems to be on a Jade angle. That's not something we see a lot of in recent days.
Yeah, Jade is a composition that is pretty straightforward and also has a lot of flexibility with how you play things around you. You don't even have to play Siphon if you want to play just a vertical Jade, depending on your setup, especially if you get the +1 Jade augments. But, you know, Shringa is supposed to play for tempo. He's supposed to play this composition. He's the one who's supposed to be streaking, bullying the lobby, dealing a lot of damage. But you can see, first of all, he lost his fight. Second of all, he's poor. He's at level 6 at 40 gold. Third of all, he has no combat augments, and that's a really big part of what makes this Jade package really strong when you get things that synergize so well with that attack speed and that healing that's stacking throughout each fight.
I also feel like that in a prismatic opening, it really highlights the importance of how those combat augments are going to work. You know, the second one is this is a silver augment. It's not nearly going to be powerful enough on this one. So that third augment, I think, a really big deal for that one, especially from a player that you expect to follow up on these lines. You know, Shunga has a consistent rank 1 in China, and they tend to have their late game strength. Right now, it's looking like this isn't so much of a late game strength, much more of a mid game.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Shunga is a player that a lot of people fear, not just because of how good he is from playing from mid or high roll positions, but Shunga is also a player that doesn't die easily. Even if he's down to his last life, he has that capability of building that board and understanding his win condition to be able to win out.
Yeah, and we are seeing him meet up with My Paradise here. My Paradise, of course, on that Yone Swift Shot angle we talked about, was able to pick up preparation in the silver augment. It's just going to get a little bit of extra value out of that with the reroll comp. He is rolling on, has now found the Olaf too as well, and it is going to be yet another win for the Korean player.
Really big win here for My Paradise to be able to keep that streak going, get that gold, because you notice he has only 3 Yone still. His entire bench was a Twitch 2, extra Jaxes. Where are the extra Yones? So it seems like while he does have the lead, he was not able to stack that Yone count to get it early in stage 4. I expect that streak to be snapped sometime in the next couple rounds.
You know, this is a big question I have about this too, is when you're going this Yone reroll, Dan, is how often are you supposed to forego the other units when you're behind on those Yones? How much should you emphasize focusing solely on picking up Yone?
It's true. Sometimes you even skip that and just go to level 7, level 8, and just say, I'm going to play Yone 2 and try to play for like a safe top 3, top 4, and that's a valid strategy. But the question is he in too deep? He's rolled so much at 6. He's made another Jax 2 on the bench. I don't know. That's really hard opportunity cost if you've spent so much gold to roll and you hit nothing.
Yeah, it's also going to come down a little bit to what other players are holding, so some scouting might be something you want to do. Of course, Shungo currently rolling, so just holding these for now. I'm not sure if he's going to keep them on his bench after that. But we are seeing the overlay from Blitz.gg come in and striking. We just have to call it out. The gold difference in this lobby as well as the level cliff between these players.
Yeah, and you're seeing so much gold get spent on this round as players try to strengthen their board. You're looking at the rolls from the Thieves' Gloves on this front line right now. I'm looking particularly at the Gnar and how much AP you get, which inherently gives you that AD damage. Just look at how powerful this Jade board is when you're not able to crack that front line.
And this is a really important round for Shunga because the level 7 roll down commits him to staying at 7 for a long time. This composition is extremely expensive because you need so many tier 4 units. Big damage being built to Bintum again. Shunga needs a strong augment coming in third because I don't think he can top 4 reliably from this position. He's also even chasing things like Gnar 3. What's going to happen?
Yeah, what is going to happen? You are talking about it, the Jade. Just, I'm very, very curious where he's leading us with this and where that is going to go. And we're in the prismatic once more. Gonna be another statement augment for these players.
3 players got think fast, but I just don't think that's the position that they're in. A couple of other things picked up. I'm looking at top center for double 61. He is going for the cap. He has Dragon Souls. He's going to be able to fast 9, get that 6 Dragon online. Again, he has now increased his win share that much more. He is the likely player to go first in this lobby right now.
I don't know how he keeps doing it. It just feels like when double 61 is online, he is just full steam ahead. Absolutely feels like consistently he gets miles ahead in these kinds of situations. But this was all enabled by this Shimmer Scale opening.
Yeah, and there's an Ao-Shin on the board as well. Of course, double 61
just
leveling to 8 early, but I kind of have to name the kitty that's waiting here. And, I mean, great direction. I think we can definitely expect this board to do well, but of course other players will try to get in the way of that, and one of them is for sure Dasic, one of EMEA's best coming in here, did pick up the Exiles, so just a little bit of extra time and extra sustain to keep alive here, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough.
Really interesting spot here for Dasic where he picked Exiles and Battle Mage. That means that he can't get full value on both. Or he has to sacrifice one. In this case, he's sacrificing the Battle Mage. You can see lacking a little bit of damage to be able to cut through things. And also, Dasic stuck in reroll hell. You know, we've talked about how, yes, Kaisa, if you're able to get the conditions, can be one of, if not the strongest reroll composition in the game. but he's just not hitting at a fast enough cadence. He does have a little bit more HP to play with, as he's at 49, thankfully winning out in stage 3. But you can see, Shringo just hit, Shielyu 2, Fritz has hit, Rengar 2 as well. Other players are now getting their boards online. Things are heating up in this lobby.
Yeah, I want to emphasize the call from Dasik there, too, to take the Exiles and get away from the Battle Mage aspect. You're weakening his Silver Augment to strengthen a Prismatic Augment as Kai'Sa 3 gets hit. This is a major deal for Dasik right now.
Does he put in the second row, or is he going to continue sacking to get Exile value? Because Kai'Sa 3 has a pretty decent amount of HP when you give her the Dragonmancer buff, so you could theoretically get that benefit from Exiles as well. Chooses to take a safer route, and My Paradise is happy to see that because Yone is a lot safer. Yone, by the way, My Paradise, still stuck on 6 Yones, so the contrast of how the rerolls are going on both sides is showing themselves in this fight.
Yeah, I absolutely love this positioning for this specific fight, looking at the Kai'Sa, just ensuring that she's not going to be targeted by the Yone before all the chunky units in the front are gone. She will survive here, and I'm pretty sure she can deal with that route.
Ooh. You love to see that, and also mentioned that, you know, Dasik is set up here for the basic ideal outcome for this Kai'Sa build. The Infinity Edge, the Jeweled Gauntlet, the blue buff, there's really not much more damage you can deal.
Yeah, it's basic Dasik. Just wants to go for the classic crit combination. Also could go for Giant Slayer. Kind of depends on the lobby. Giant Slayer's a lot better against Dragons. So if he knows he's going against Double 61, who will be playing Dragons, he can play for the late game win condition. That's assuming he gets the bow. And he's beelining for that bow potentially, but he's thinking about the glove. Is it going to be the bow or is it going to glove?
Oh.
And this is great planning. A lot of people would automatically autopilot and say, Jewel Gauntlet, Infinity Edge, that's a classic thing like ham and cheese, but I'm going to go with Giant Slayer because I recognize that the player I need to beat late game will be a player like Double 61 who's going to be going for that dragon.
That's
excellent recognition from Dasik.
Huge macro line. Like, that is like some Giga Brain 5-head stuff going on.
Okay. It is, absolutely. We love Dasik. But another player that we love, Soju, currently hit the Graves too. He is on an 8 loss streak. This is not looking great, but he just found something that he so desperately needed in this comp, and that is the upgrade on the Graves.
Oh boy.
Upgrades.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, when there's multiple 2-cost reroll players, it is more likely that each of them hit as long as they're not taking the same route.
I mean, it's going to be really tough. Soju hopes that he doesn't queue up into My Paradise. Instead, it's hit with
Slooper. That's Slooper.
A late pivot into what looks like to be Zai, or maybe not even a pivot, just something that he's been angling for. Does end up going with the Graves. They can get good angling. A big disarm from Rakan also to stop the back line. This Graves 2 is really hard to stop specifically at this point of the game. The question is, will Soju be able to keep winning after this fight because he can't afford to lose?
Well, first of all, he needs to get through that one. In the backline is a Varus, and that one has been stacking up the Rage Blade, but Graves is onto it, and that win seems to come through here.
Whoa.
But it was not an easy one.
That was closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's much closer than I thought it would be, but the thing I want to point out there is the Graves items right now. We have a cloak that's just floating on the Graves here. Soju almost certainly is gunning for the Edge of Night in this spot, but that means you're going to have to find an item finder, plus all that gold you're going to commit to the Treasure Dragon to make sure that you find it.
Well, he does have a decent amount of gold. A lot of the times, players from this Seraphine Grave spot don't actually have any gold for the Treasure Dragon. But more importantly than that, Soju needs to win this next fight because he does not want to go down to the teens, having basically 1.5 lives for Stage 5.
Yeah, and we are getting some secret intel.
Oh, no.
I know it's not necessarily for us, but I just spied it. Slooper, the Brazilian player, ex-world player, he has found 2 Shyvanas on bench at 4-6, and he was on that swift shoot angle as we last saw him, so that board could spiral into great strength.
Oh, the lack of Edge of Night really punishing here as Graves was not able to get the D-aggro, and as a result loses his fight. Soju's down to 18. That was a critical loss that can end up costing him the chance at top 4.
That is a big loss coming into this one. This was not the board you wanted to face from Soju's angle. You're trying to fight those players who are looking at the 9, who are trying to restabilize the board, not the ones who have hit a Yasuo or a Yone 3 and going, I need to move up. It's the Chaos Treasure Dragon!
That's not good for a lot of these players, including Soju, because there's not many things that you want to use a spatula on. And he also has that many fewer chances to hit things like the magnetic remover and get the optimal items onto his Graves.
Oh, goodness. This is a wacky spot. This is the dragon that throws everybody off, too. You're going to have to make compromises.
Oh,
but
there it is.
Soju didn't feel like he was in a spot to make too many compromises.
Okay, so we found a magnetic remover. We actually found 2, 3, no, they're gone.
He's got to find the way to get Edge of Night to benefit from the cloak. There's so many things that had to go right here, and that's, Dan, exactly what you were trying to point out, is that the Chaos Dragon just messes all of that up. He's having to take a completely different angle, it feels like.
So where do we go? We went Shojin, Infinity Edge, Hand of Justice. We can reforge stuff. We can reforge components. Oh, he reforges the engraves entirely. He just sends it and hopes that he has 2 good items to be able to put it on guarantee with Infinity Edge and Hand of Justice. Oh, yeah, sorry, magnetic remove. I thought he used his Reforger. I apologize, I misspoke. But this is just still really awkward in general. Can Soju find a way to stabilize? This looks like a very dicey situation.
This is just crazy what's going on right now. Xayah 2 hit by Slooper in this one. Double 61 rolled from 120 gold to 0 to get a Dragon board online. And now Soju absolutely needs to win this fight. The Graves in a great position to do this. Focuses on the Kaisa, takes it down pretty easy. Beantem is in trouble.
Yeah, so Soju finding yet another win, but as we keep saying, he needs to continue this trajectory. He cannot be winning, losing, winning, losing. He needs several wins to climb back into the healthy part of this lobby, because My Paradise and Casey Double are up there.
Yeah, Beantem, by the way, started off with that Tactician's Crown. We thought he was in a pretty decent spot. He chose to reroll Kaisa, and what do we say at the beginning of the game? That there's room for 1 Kaisa player. Dasik hit, and then Beantem is still not hitting. It's a very difficult situation for him.
Yeah, this is
This is not a difficult situation at all for Casey Double.
I'm pretty sure this is illegal.
So what happened was he racked up so much gold, 120 to be exact, with the 5 shimmer scale that we saw him on for a very, very long time, and he rolled all of that down.
I want to point out here, too, that despite having that much gold, he still doesn't have a 2-star board. So keep that in mind next time you're going for level 9 in Dragons. You need a ton of gold or a ton of health or both.
I mean, he doesn't have all 2-star dragons, and the Rengar can potentially snipe things like that Aushin, but the Rengar ends up chasing things like the target dummy in the bottom left, which is actually a huge move there from Double 61. Here comes the Lightning Rain, kills off everything, and just look at how powerful this Dragon board is.
I mean, it is 6 dragons. Yes, they're not 2-star just yet, but they're still gonna do a heck of a lot damage.
Oh my goodness, Beantem out in 8th place, and guess what? Right before he died, another Kaisa 2-star appeared, which means he rolled his gold during combat and hit Kaisa 3 right before he died. Like, literally, I was on his bench. He just had to survive 1 more round. He would have made Kaisa 3.
That's a shame.
That's sad. I'm very sad. But, Fritz, 1 HP, maybe top 5 anime plot twists coming around here, turning it back in and trying to save his life. 6 Darkflight, 4 Assassins. We saw the Assassin angle very, very early. Did go for Windfall to get some econ back, but it's not looking great.
So this is the version of Assassins that I'm not sure about, where you sacrifice Darkflight Essence as opposed to building Zeeks and use Assassin Emblem just as another carry. We'll see whether or not he can survive. He's going up against Slooper, who has that big Xayah damage coming in, but Xayah is weak against specifically this when you have nothing like Titans or Edge of Night to drop the aggro from Rengar. So Xayah is down, and that just means that Slooper has only his Shyvana to really deal damage with his Jace.
Absolutely, but still alive, will breathe one more time, and it will come down to the Battle of the Dragons, which one of these two can survive. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the Swain, and Fritz manages to hang on here. Dasik, however, also getting knocked down to 8 HP.
Yeah, this is 1 HP to Dream. Dasik effectively 1 HP in a Dream at this point as well. The damage stakes are just getting so high.
How awful would it be for both these players that they both reroll Kaisa and they go 7-8 holding hands in the lobby when it looked like Dasik was actually in a pretty decent spot, but the power of the double prismatic library just spiked everything. Yes, Kaisa's really strong, but everyone else is really strong.
Yeah, I mean, augments warp the dynamic, right? They're going to have to change your view on the game. You can't just take this classic view every time and play out these lines that you know are strong and that you're experienced with. Sometimes you have to reach for the stars in this one. A 2-cost reroll doesn't feel like it's taking that position right now. But looking at Dasik's board, it still feels very strong. They're up to level 8 now, so that board's going to get slightly strengthened, just not a ton of gold to work with.
Okay, 2 things. There's a mage cap involved in a non-mage board, so that just tells us something wasn't going directly right.
Yeah, it's just for the Dragonmancer buff. Yasuo is really important. Also, CC is really key. So there's actually really good recognition from Dasik. I don't need necessarily the mage cap. I just need a Yasuo on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, it does have the Yasuo as unlocked for those 6 Dragonmancers, but he's gonna go up against My Paradise. The Shroud of Stillness hitting the entire camp, however, not the Yone that's in the back left corner, and all eyes are on the Kaisa as she's onto him. He heals back up. Can she take down this Blade Master? Yes, she can, and Dasik should be able to win this one out.
Huge win as Fritz does take 7th place. He's playing for placements here. Dasik knows that top 4 is difficult to achieve, but not impossible. Slooper did win, but Dasik ever so closely is inching towards that top 4.
Fritz getting knocked out in 7th place in this one. Soju sitting at 1 health effectively. Dasik, you know, again, still in that going to be that same spot for the rest of the game here, unless Soraka, you know, like 13 can get online and really heal him back up here.
Yeah, I just don't agree with the build that Fritz ended up choosing. I like the idea. I just think that he had a little bit of complication with who was actually the carry. Was it the Swain that had 3 items? Was it the Assassins? He ended up sacrificing a Grave with the Assassin emblem. There's a lot of confusion there, but it's okay. He has a lot of time to make it up. Soju, on the other hand, has no more chances at 3 HP in a dream.
Yeah, and this is, oh my gosh, again, against the, I feel like every time we swap to Soju, he's faced off against the Yone board here, but the Graves is on the correct side for this. You want to take down where the heavy damage is first, and right now, the Pantheon is holding this down well, but the Graves turns to the left. Now, that hold down from Bard could be a big deal. Buying it a little bit of time could be the difference in the world right now. The Graves absolutely soloing this, does not get focused by the Yone. That's a huge win for Soju.
Incredible positioning here from Soju to be able to get everything work. Rakan was able to disarm for twice, was able to chain CC with Bard and Zyra. Excellent job by Soju.
Yeah, that was really, really great, and he gets to live for another round, maybe can gain something great from what I like to call the treasure goblin here, but Dasik did lose his round, is now also on 1 HP, so both of these players will try to fight and claw to get into those top 4.
You know, I'd mentioned that Dasik was effectively on 1 HP, and when you see this actual literal one come up, it gives you such a big understanding of how important those early and mid-game spots can be. Saving 1 HP here could be the total difference in Dasik making it to a top 4, top 3 spot, and just being absolutely knocked out in 6th place.
Yeah, very quietly, by the way. We talked about how Shunga needed to find a way to improve his board. Now he's in prime position for a top 3. Potentially even more if he's able to preserve that HP. Who is going to queue up in this double 61, though? That is the big question.
Yeah.
Every player is just sweating, peepo shaking, hoping, please, not me, double. I need at least 1 or 2 more rounds to top 4.
I mean, he's been on a 5 win streaks with that 1-star backline. It's going to be looking stronger at this point. I am not looking forward to facing double 61 right now.
No, absolutely not. So let's see where this one goes. Dasik will meet up with Shungo for now. It is going to be the Jade board that we saw so early. Let's see how that Kaisa does. In the background, Shroud of Stillness going on to that Soraka, delaying the heal, delaying the sustain that the Jade board needed, but the Kaisa is moving around. She's still untouched, and we're swapping over here to see Soju getting eliminated by Casey Double. He was unfortunately the one that met the Dragons, and Dasik finding another win.
That's so big. Soju took -20. There's just no way Dasik would lose by that much. So an excellent job to pull top 5. This might be where the buck stops, though. He has only 2 matchups. My Paradise and double 61, who again was primed to win this lobby very early on. It's really about who's playing for second.
Heads or tails? Heads or tails? It feels like this is a big part of TFT is those variables. Looking at that last fight too, something I really want to highlight is the positioning here from Dasik and spreading out the board. That Shioyu occupied so much time away from the Kaisa. I feel like that's what bought him the round.
Yeah, we are going to go into the fight first. So let's see if it is going to be the Dragons.
No.
And Dasik might just meet his fate in this round. Let's see how they do. The Shyvana has been leveled up to 2. The same is true for Aoshin. The Lightning Rain will come crashing down and annihilate the entire board. The Kaisa is only standing here with a Zek in her defense, and I don't think she can do it. Dasik getting knocked out in what could be 5th. My Paradise survives. 4th place guaranteed. Top 4 stands.
Yeah, that's a really nice fit from Dasik. He was contested. There was a lot of awkward matchups that were in the lobby, and not to mention his augment setup was not ideal. And then you also mix in the fact that players like Double 61 is just crushing his way through.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with the fifth there.
Yeah, I honestly, like, sometimes the fifth feels like a strong placement in these ones. Because, again, we're not just playing one game and then moving on to the next spot as we get a glimpse of when there's 4 players left. One of the features we're going to be looking at here. But you're playing over 10 games to contest for that day 3 spot right now. That is absolutely a decent spot for Dasik in this lobby.
Absolutely. I'm happy with anything Dasik does, you know, true fan club. But My Paradise and Shungo will meet up here, and that could be the end for My Paradise.
This is looking like a pretty tough one right now, but there's not like an immense amount of damage that's crashing in. It's really, can this Yone tear through this and actually get onto the damage here? The Jace is going to be pretty tough to take down, but we have built up a lot of stacks onto this Rage Plate right now, plus we're getting that additional shred from Twitch and from this last one's been sitting here. That Bard, however, is a big deal right now. Yone's getting focused. This is absolutely not what you want to see.
Oh my god, the Braum stalled for 27 seconds in this fight. Mary Paradise is dead in 4th place. And Shungo, the player we talked about, you never count him out with a top 2, putting China off to a great start.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all like secret fans of Shungo, but we also have to name Slooper going down in 30th. Did find the Shyvana 2 earlier on, did have the Zaya 2 online, but it just wasn't enough to keep up with the Dragon board. And to me, what is crazy, the Jade board, we are seeing them here in a side-by-side, and Shungo just has managed to make this board so strong. Is actually going to be reforging here into the Soraka through looking for more bards, but that's not going to work out.
His win condition was to go for a 3-star legendary, but he recognizes he can't win this fight. This is effectively a concede from Shungo. He says second was the highest I could possibly get. An excellent job from both these players. Shungo also made it work. We said maybe a siphonless Jade was possible on the table. He made it work when I know a lot of players in this field could not.
Yeah, it's a big call out to make there too in a spot like that, going for the vertical Jade, and then also the big call of the actual gamble all in at the end. You have to hit a 3-star legendary or your hopes are dead. These are great calls through and through.
Yeah, and Casey Double taking the win in game number 1 of our TFT championships. I want to say our champion of EMEA has returned